I made a video on both of these models, the new BMW iX3 and the Mercedes GLC, both fully electric vehicles, and it's very unusual that both Mercedes and BMW drop two direct competitors essentially on the same day. Now, in the videos that I made of these, I thought that both these models, when it comes to the design, nothing else, no spec, no tech, when it comes to the design, I think they are both a step in the right direction. Maybe not the best direction, but look at the EQ series. I mean, the bubbleness that we had with the EQS, the SUVs as well, it just was not selling. This looks like an internal combustion engine. And then we have the iX3 with this Neue Klasse design from a side view. And also, I don't know if you've seen it, but they already dropped the M Performance parts for the iX3. And if you have that in black, it actually looks really good. The side profile of the iX3 is by far my favorite view. The proportions are on point. So what we're gonna do in this video is, if I was to buy one of these today, which one would I buy? Because both of them have negatives and both of them, of course, have positives. But it's a pretty hard choice, to be honest. Before we jump in and have a look at this in Photoshop here, I'm gonna compare it and look at how good the iX3 looks in black. It looks very, very nice, specifically with these big, probably 22-inch wheels here, because black covers up all the complexities that I was not sure about in the front end of the lower section here. You can see that it's all covered up now. We still have, of course, the massive grille with, I can't remember, like 200 small little LEDs inside of the grille. Chrome outline. You can get the Mercedes GLC with the black chrome package, which is something I would 100% go with. It at least brings some attention away from the grille. And of course, we're going to have a look at the front and the side, the rear, and then the interior as well. Very, very tricky choice for me if I was in the market for one of these. So let me know which one you would buy. Before we jump into any sort of compare the spec and tech of these two, let me know before we jump into the video. Comment down below if you had to pick one of these today, you had to buy one of these for some reason, which one would you personally buy? And also let me know why. What is your reasoning for buying that specific vehicle? So before we jump into Photoshop, we're gonna have a look at Inside EV's article here. I'm gonna link it down below. This is a very good comparison between the two, and I want to show it to you. So BMW iX3 versus Mercedes GLC EQ, which next generation EV is better? Here we have one in blue, one in red. The grille still stands out, so it's like overly defined, this grille for the GLC. If you look at the previous GLC, I think they had a 63 AMG. That one was a perfect GLC. Just beautiful, beautiful design. This looks similar to that in side view, but they messed it up a little bit with the front end graphics. But the old GLC was a beautiful SUV. So here we have it. Both offer brand new 800-volt electric architectures that are built from the ground up to be updatable over the air. I don't think I've ever heard that word before. The GLC is slightly longer, 190.7 inches. To the iX3 is 188.3 inches, but they both nearly exact same width and length. You got 483 horsepower in the Mercedes and 469 in the Beamer. Not a big difference there. The GLC 400 offers up to 596 pound-feet of torque, far eclipsing the iX350's 475. So the torque is way up in the Mercedes. Something to keep in mind if you actually plan on towing something with your EVs. You might want to consider the Mercedes because of the more torque, the higher torque figure. So Mercedes says that the GLC 400 can knock out a 4.3 seconds 0 to 62. BMW says the iX350 takes 4.9 seconds. To me, this does not matter. Horsepower as well, it doesn't matter anymore. Horsepower is a number that is just thrown out there now in ridiculously high numbers. To me, what's more important right now in today's world is going to be the interior feel, the interior vibe, the warmth or the lack of warmth when you step into an interior. I think that is the key component for me, because that is where you're going to spend all your time in the car. You're not going to look at the exterior that much, but at the same time, it feels good also to drive around in a package that is beautifully sculpted, of course. Both companies have a tendency to understate their car's performance, so they're probably faster than these numbers here. Expect both to launch performance variants, of course, later down the line, pretty soon probably. So Mercedes says that the GLC 400 with EQ technology, as they call it right now, will offer up to 443 miles of range, which is not bad at all. Probably around 400 real-world miles, and we're starting to get up to that number now that it makes sense to buy an EV. Even if you want to go on longer road trips, 400 miles, you can stop for 20 minutes, charge it up, and you're good to go. So the iX3 50 xDrive will offer 421 to 500 miles of range. That should translate to well over 400 miles on the EPA cycle in max range spec, eclipsing the Mercedes and nearly every other electric SUV on sale. So BMW has really worked on the range here. Love to see it. Over 400 miles in real world range, not bad at all. The GLC will be one of the only EVs on sale to offer a 2-speed transmission. So that will help you if, for example, if you're on the Autobahn, if you do a lot of highway driving and you don't want to, drain the battery really fast, you have a 2-speed transmission here, something that you don't get in the BMW. So the GLC squeezes its 400-mile range out of a battery with 94 kilowatt hours of usable energy. BMW fits a juicier pack with 108.7 kilowatt of usable capacity. So the Mercedes can accept up to 330 kilowatt of power and charge from 10 to 80% in 24 minutes. Seems to be the standard numbers we see all the time. However, BMW claims a 21 minutes 10 to 80% sprint with a peak charging rate of 400 kilowatts. So it's a little bit faster when it comes to the charging. Even though it does not have this 2-speed transmission, that's not going to help you on the highway. It's probably going to drain the battery a little faster as well. Both cars offer, now look at the interiors here, both cars offer pillar-to-pillar infotainment screens. You got the Hyperscreen in the Mercedes, you got the panoramic iDrive in the BMW. Both offer, of course, integrated AI-powered virtual assistants now, and a bunch of technologies that I would probably never use personally myself, because I have my phone, I know where I need to go, Apple CarPlay, that is all I need personally. I don't need these assistants or these big screens or anything like that, but that's what we get in both cars now. Mercedes also offers rear wheel steering, something you don't have in the BMW, but the BMW is also, keep in mind, the BMW is a little bit shorter than the Mercedes, so the turning radius is probably going to be, I don't know, but I feel like they're probably going to be very similar anyway. So the iX3 and the GLC support vehicle-to-home and vehicle-to-everything technology, so you can charge whatever devices you have, just plug it in to the vehicle itself. Now, the pricing, we don't have any pricing for the Mercedes yet, but I do think it's going to be very close to what the BMW is going to cost. So the BMW is said to cost around $60,000 for the iX3 50 xDrive when it arrives in the summer of 2026. And I actually look forward to seeing these on the roads. I can't wait to see the iX3 in real life and see if it actually, because usually what happens when you see the pictures like this, promo videos and media picture photos, 90% of the time when I see the car in real life, it looks better, way better than it does in photos. I hope that is the case with both of these vehicles. I can't wait to see them in real life. Pricing will start under $55,000 for the rear-wheel drive only iX3, which arrives a little later. Now, in the real world, you're probably going to end up spending more than $60,000 anyway, because you want to add some options to these vehicles. Of course, no pricing for the GLC yet. It's supposed to launch late 2026, so pricing should be out pretty soon. But as I said, it's probably going to be very, very similar to the BMW. The BMW offers more range, faster charging speeds, and a design that this person who wrote this article personally prefer. Now, let's jump into Photoshop here. They did cover all the spec and tech, but they missed the most important thing, the design. So that is what we're going to look at right now. Let's jump into Photoshop here and have a look at both of these designs. As I said, comparing this to the, for example, the iX, the BMW iX, compare this to the iX3. This looks so much better in design with this new Neue Klasse design, and specifically, I decided specifically to choose this in black here, even though that means that we're going to cover up some of the details that we can't really see, and that is the entire point of having it in black, because I want to cover up these lower sections down here, because I think when you look at the lower section of the iX3, it still has these very strange details in the lower section for the BMW. Even though the front end, the top half looks pretty clean to me, we have this very thin 2002 BMW inspired kidneys right here that I personally wanted to extend. I showed you that in the video we made on the iX3 and how I think that would look a little better, just to extend the width of these by just a couple of inches to have more of a wider nostrils in the front end. But other than that, very, very clean design from BMW in the front end with the new Neue Klasse design. The Mercedes here, still a good looking design overall. The only thing that we talked about is this grille. It just sticks up way too low down here. And also, why is this the only feature that has all these LEDs, the chrome outline, the bars in the middle here, the black bars, and then we have a black empty space in the lower section? This black space right here makes it feel even more that they extended it too far. It's unnecessary, because this is, I guess it houses something, I'm not sure, because the license plate sits right over it, but it feels like this is an unnecessary length or a height for this. This piece down here could have been cut off, so we have the grille ending in this area, because this is the black area in the lower section. It doesn't seem to have a function. Then we have the typical Mercedes intake styling for the sides, which I think still looks good. They don't necessarily need to change this up anytime soon, because it still has a very modern look to it. The GLC headlights for 2026 looks to be exactly the same outline as the 2025 model year, which is not bad because they look very beautiful, even though this star pattern that we have in the middle right there does not feel like it suits the vehicle overall, because it doesn't have a connection to the outline of the GLC. That is something we talked about in the dedicated GLC video as well. Overall, both of these definitely a step forward. I mean, compare the GLC to the EQ with this mask design that we used to have, black framing for it and bubble design. This one looks so much better than that, and this one also looks 100 times better than the iX. Now look at the side view. Definitely my favorite views for both of these vehicles, because the GLC, for example, looks almost identical to the old GLC, even though we do have a longer wheelbase, this EV proportions with the wheelbase, but we still have a nice line flow. We have a muzzle over the rear axle. We have a hood that actually looks like it could house an internal combustion engine underneath there. We don't have the A-pillar going down all the way to this point like we used to have in the old EQ vehicles, looking like a proper bubble on wheels with no defined shape to it, the EQS SUV, for example. The wheels look great as well. And look at this. Both of these vehicles now offer a lot of wheel choices in silver. Great to see it. Love to see the black wheels slowly fading away, at least giving us some options to have silver wheels coming back, because personally I've always thought that it looks classier to have silver or bronze or maybe gunmetal wheels. And on top of that, it also feels like we can appreciate the spoke design, like I've talked about so many times before, when we actually can see what the spoke design looks like and not just a black hole in the wheel arch itself. Now look at the BMW. I mean, check this out. These proportions honestly look really good. They look great in my opinion. It does not look like an EV. First of all, what I mean by that is usually this rear axle is sticking out way in this area right here and having the wheel all the way out there. This looks great. We have a Hofmeister kink, as BMW calls it themselves for this, even though it's a little bit stretched out. It doesn't look like a traditional Hofmeister kink. And look at the stateliness in the front end with this peak, this corner right here being the farthest point in the top half of the graphics in the front end. And we have a properly designed hood as well. If we draw down the A-pillar, it goes down right in front of the rear axle center point, exactly like we want to see on an SUV proportions. If it was a coupe, we want to have it go down into the center point. Same goes for the sedans as well. We also have a muzzle over the rear axle. Nice to see it. We have a line right here that does not really have a connection to, you can't really see it here, but it is a line in the bodywork right here that I wish had a connection to maybe a defined bumper in the rear, something like this. Would have been nice to see, to have a line flow going through there. But it's okay, because it's still so much better than the iX, which is, to me, I mean, I'm sorry to say it, but the iX to me is BMW's worst design of all time. That's just my opinion. And I didn't know how they would come back from that, but we see it now with the Neue Klasse. They said we need to step up our game here, and they definitely did that with these proportions of the iX3. This looks great. I mean, the wheels, they do a lot. You need big wheels for this to make the proportions look right, and these are the wheels that I would personally go with as well. Now look at the rear end design. Both of these looks pretty decent in the rear, to be honest. This, I feel like the iX3 is the car that is going to grow on me the most between the GLC and the iX3, especially in black. I think I would probably go with black for the iX3 with these wheels, or maybe some aftermarket wheels that doesn't have this cover up of the spokes right here, this little frisbee that we have inside of the wheel arch in the wheel itself. We have this muscle, you can see it here, beautiful muscle right here. We also have some beefiness in the front end as well. The only thing that I would like to change here is, by the way, we have these industrial looking features right here, creases in the hood that then comes back in the rear, almost exactly the same styling like we have in the front end, just a little bit squished. What I would like to change here is just cut the taillights in this area. So I want to have this be black, and then have the taillights be a little bit smaller in width than what we have right here. They stick too long into the middle, but that's just a small little detail that is not really a big deal. The lower section looks pretty decent as well, even though we have now these features sticking up in typical BMW fashion. They need to add some weirdness still in the design, both in the front, of course, and in the rear. Look at the Mercedes, very clean design. Not so sure about these parallel lines here. What I did in the redesign was to just add an indent like this to follow the outline of the taillight unit that goes inside, that goes on inside of the taillight unit. And they also, of course, need to add this feature on every single vehicle, which is a shame, because you can see this line. We talked about this again in the GLC video, how this line, if this piece was not here, it would have a nice connection to this line in the bumper line. But now we have this sitting right in the middle, like blocking these connections off. So this line can't reach its friend over here because of this blockage that we have with this unnecessary fake, I assume, air vent in the bumper itself. The lower section, very dynamic looking design, very organic and rounded. I love to see it. And we have a nice looking gloss black diffuser at the lower section as well. Now, last but not least, the interiors here. This is where it really made it hard for me, because honestly, if I were to pick one of these based on the exterior design, it's going to be the BMW. I just really like what BMW did with the iX3 with this Neue Klasse design. I can't wait to see what the new 5 Series, 3 Series, the entire lineup is going to look with the new Neue Klasse. They're also updating the 7 Series, which looks to be less of Neue Klasse design for that one, but it's still an update. But here, I definitely prefer the Mercedes for the interior, because this looks so cold and so clinical, the iX3 interior. But at the same time, I mean, this is a gorgeous interior. Even though I do not prefer these two screens, the integration of it, the vent design, the build quality, just feels like they put a lot more effort into the Mercedes compared to the BMW, and it feels like a much more welcoming interior. But this makes me think that if I were to buy the car based on the interior, I would go for the Mercedes. But overall, the entire package for the vehicle, in my opinion, I would still go for a black BMW iX3. Let me know again which one you would pick and why down in the comments below.